going on, guys? All right, so I've been kind of moving stuff around. With the lightning that we have very frequently around here, I keep a lot of radios not hooked up. I disconnect the antenna outside. I'm not using ladder line on the loop anymore. I do still have it kind of hanging there, which has some interaction with the antenna. So if I want to on short notice, I can go back to using a balance line tuner. So my feed point is right above my head. It's not very far above my head. I believe that there are two 11-foot top rail pipes right near the corner of the door here, and that's where the feed point is. Like, literally, I'll show you. So, we'll open the door. There's my ladder line hanging. This is a lightning spark gap thing. There's my feed point to my loop. I've got some wire going here. It's going to this ground. This is actually a cover around the pipe. This is some pool pipe that I welded together and just stacked them. And then inside of here is the other pipe. You see it coming out of it right there. So that's all it is. So there's top rail. So anyway, like I run a lot of wires down in through here. This is actually, really makeshift, but it goes to the solar, and then up through here is where the coax comes in, and it comes down through here, and then I have back in here I've got a switch. And this is one of the ones that you can ground into the center. But what I do is outside the, let me show you again. I just disconnect it right here when we have lightning. I've got a bunch of coax here, and it goes up to here. And the reason I have that is it's actually acting as a phasing line. So without it there, it doesn't want to tune up on 40 meters or 20. I'm not sure. I can't remember. The problem with the ladder line is that we're tied to this tuner here. And there's no way to bypass a Johnson KW matchbox and just have it pass through. So on most of my tuners, I'm running this one. This is the one I've been running lately. This is kind of a rare tuner to find. 9982. And it's supposed to be a lot more heavy duty than the 989. It has edge wound roller inductor, but it's very cheaply made. I do have one of these. I actually have two of these. I prefer the older version. I don't like this version. The meter also reads a different scale. And then I have the Heath kit, which works really well. But unless you modify it, it doesn't actually have a bypass. The bypass just goes to another coax connector. So, anyway, with this going in here, I used to have both the coaxes going through there, and, one of them actually is my UHF VHF. So, you can ground that connector, but I don't feel like that's safe. So, basically, what I do is I usually have a barrel connector in between here, and this goes to my amplifier down here, which goes over to the tuner, which goes up out to here. You see the RG213. So I disconnect that outside, and I make sure this is disconnected to the radio when I'm not in here, or when we know that we've got lightning or whatever. And I just know too many people. If you guys follow the channel, you've heard David's issues with his amplifier and his 710. And David has actually had several nearby strikes. One that his wife saw something flash inside of the tuner or the radio or something. I forget what it was. And he had a Kenwood that got a nearby strike. I think it was a TS450. But anyway, so it's very serious in northern Arizona and lots of parts of Arizona with lightning. And you can do all the grounding that you want in the world, but if your crap is hooked up, it's pretty likely it's just going to, even though it's not going to conduct in that direction, there's still going to be enough in the system, even a nearby strike. So I remove my radios and I try and keep them. I try to make sure that I have all radios in the same spot, because if I take a nearby hit, every radio that's out here probably will get zapped, including all the other equipment. And so I just, I've got a lot of radios. So, and if it's something simple like the 710, I can disconnect it. And you see here's this cable and the power supply. It's not sitting here. I got that one down there. So I think it's a good idea to keep other radios in other places. I also keep radios in file cabinets, and the reason I keep them in file cabinets is because we've had some really weird solar activity. There's lots of weird things that go on. We have no idea if something weird could happen and somebody's going to hit us with an EMP blast. I don't know that a file cabinet is going to protect you. I don't know that a Faraday cage is going to protect your equipment. I think we have an intentional blast that's going to be so brutal that it's probably going to melt a lot of stuff that's metal. But anyway, so it's just kind of something that I try to do and practice to do. It has to do with the lightning and all that. So I keep things disconnected because I don't want to burn up or replace equipment. So, but my antenna is grounded, so to speak. And even though it's a loop antenna, you would think, well, it doesn't make sense to ground it. Well, it doesn't really matter, because if you look at everything else and how everything else is hooked up, depending on how you ground your station, or if you believe in the grounding fairy and all that stuff, I personally have a different opinion and approach on grounding, so I don't really discuss it on the channel because people would like to argue with me, and I just do what I know works for me. I could be absolutely wrong. I keep my advice to myself on it. But the thing is, if you have a 3-prong cord on a power supply, which most power supplies do, the Astron does, the Icon power supply does, the Samlex power supply does, if that is not a floating chassis, the negative terminal coming out of that power supply would be tied to the ground in some way or form. Maybe floating at a different value, but tied to it in some way. And then that's hooked to the radio. And the radio, let's say you have your radio grounded. The back of the radio is grounded. Well, what do you have it grounded to? Are you grounding it to your panel mains, or are you grounding it to a separate ground? Well, either way, no matter what your opinion on that is, you're grounded. You've created a path to ground. Okay? So, if you get a lightning strike, it's going to go through all your equipment and everything to find a path to ground. Even if something else is a better or quicker, shorter path, it will still go through every little path that there is. And that's just because the intensity of the energy is just going to flow like a burst in all directions of everything that will conduct. And if you get a direct strike, the last thing you're going to be concerned about is going to be your radios, because your house is going to be toast. And direct strikes are pretty bad. But anyway, I keep my stuff disconnected. I put stuff away. I keep stuff out of the general area, because if I got a strike, this area would be all electrified, So, and if I have it plugged in or something, and you get a nearby strike, it's going to get in your power lines. If it hits my antenna, it's going to, hit a lot of other stuff too. Most of these people that experience nearby strikes, the strike could be a couple blocks away. So, I mean, it's really serious stuff. So, We've, when you get a real close strike, you can hear it. It sounds really brutal. We had a strike, I think, maybe a couple houses behind us one time, and nothing happened over here. But we were prepared for it. So anytime the monsoons and stuff come rolling in, we just shut everything off. But it is what it is. So I have radios hooked up that I'm not concerned about so much, and I leave them out. And I can't be putting all these radios in different places. I'm not going to be paranoid like that, but I just try to be a little proactive about everything, especially lately with everybody getting damage to their equipment.